Welcome to the Night Shift Chronicles, or the Library of Stephen King once again, as we are exploring Stephen King's story, The Boogeyman, which is a 12-page short story. You can find many versions of it on Audible, read by many people, which is pretty good. But Kenny will talk about the movie, and I'm definitely going to go into a little bit of some of the similarities and differences between this and how it relates to this film. Because let me tell you something, trying to turn this 12-page story into a movie took some liberties. On top of five screenwriters from The Quiet Place, um, this is why I write stuff down. The Quiet Place, Smile, um, Malignant, Black Swan, and 65, which came out earlier this year. All these writers who worked on all these films worked on this script, and boy, oh boy, does it show. But that doesn't mean I hate it. I didn't hate this movie, but Katie and I are going to talk about The Boogeyman, based on the novel by Stephen King.
All right, The Boogeyman, directed by Rob Savage and starring Sophie Thatcher, Chris Messina, Vivian Lyra Blair, David Desmalchian, and Marin Ireland. As Chris said, it's written by five people, which honestly, I got a lot of stuff to say about this film. I will start out that the beginning of this film, honestly, in horror is, I think, if not my, I think the best beginning of a horror film this year, it's definitely my favorite.
Wow.
I think it is affected. I think the sound design is just frightening and horrifying. You have a small child, like, I mean, small enough that it's like they're still in a crib and definitely not able to form like full sentences. You have just this creepy factor. You don't see the monster. There is, you don't see exactly what is going to happen or what does happen, which actually I think is the always best thing to do in horror. Like, make your mind see the darkest thing possible, because honestly, that's way scarier than what you're probably going to see on screen. And going into this film, I was like, hot damn, this is going to be great. Unfortunately for me, that was the high point of the film as far as the scares and the effectiveness. I did
Yeah.
think the sound design was great. I thought the casting was exceptional. I mean, every single actor that I've listed has been in monumental films, always something solid. Marin Ireland is in Birth Rebirth, like one of my top films of the year already. David Desmalchian is in, Marvel. He does everything. He is
Mm.
fantastic. Sophie Thatcher in Yellow Jackets. Vivian Lyra Blair. I didn't know exactly who she was, and then I was like, why do I know her? Why do I know her? And then she's like baby Princess Leia. I mean, mwah. This casting, fantastic. What I'm going to get into what the movie's about. It's about a father played by Chris Messina, who's a psychiatrist, Will Harper. He and his daughters, Sawyer and Sadie, have just suffered a tragedy. Their wife mother has died, I believe, in a car wreck 1 month prior. So they are reeling from this tragedy. Will sees patients. You see the film. They start the film with the girls going back to school, trying to start their normal routine. This is honestly where the film just immediately went downhill for me. It's the fact that we still have this stereotype and just really uh just such I feel like an old school and not worthy, not really a trope, but just the fact that you have like high school girls who are automatically saying things and doing things
Oh,
like within the first 10 minutes of the movie, that I'm like, that I mean, I've got multiple sentences like this. To me, automatically then took the realism out of it. It's like people aren't this stupid when they talk about like someone mourning something, especially since it's been a month. A month isn't a long time. A month is an extremely short time for the death of someone, especially someone as a mother or a wife. I feel like the way this film handled the death process honestly was really insulting for both the children, for a husband getting over things. It's like there's just so many aspects of the film where people are just so dumb, saying it's like, you really should move on and get on with it and all this stuff. It's been a month. Look, I'm not saying there's things you should do, but I just thought it was really stupid. Uh, then, Sadie goes to school. She, encounters people like as I'm very upset about, and just really threw me off. That just acts stupid. She comes home. Will has been seeing. He just started seeing patients again, and he sees patients at his home. By the way, he sees patients at his home, and someone just walked in off the street because he, for some reason, doesn't have a private door to the office of where he should be doing that, especially since he has children living there.
Mm,
And it's David Dashmalshin, and he goes into the story of like what happened to him and his family, and that's where we don't necessarily know the name of the boogeyman, but we hear the story and what it's about. And the boogeyman is brought on by grief. David Desmalshin, uh, he has three daughters. The baby died of SIDS, and that brought on this entity that then went and killed his children. And he apparently is been accused of killing them. Here's thing number two. This doesn't seem like it's a giant metropolitan area, like, a million people or whatnot. I would think that someone who comes in off the street, is being accused of killing three of his children, that's somewhat newsworthy. And I know it's been a month, he probably has been watching TV and stuff, but I don't know, that seems a little off. I also thought that this whole thing, I mean, Desmalshin's great, Messina's great. I just thought this just again wasn't like a realistic thing or something. And then somewhat it's kind of like, It Follows and Darkness Falls and stuff like that. The boogeyman then latches on to this family because they are grieving. So instead of sex and stuff like that, and the boogeyman only comes makes themselves known when it's dark. I don't know. There's a lot of stuff that goes on with this movie that I just thought was really ridiculous. A child being thrown across a room into a TV, being knocked out, being admitted into a hospital, and then released that night was kind of stupid. Different aspects of where the boogeyman has been has like almost an alien like uh, web of roots on the floor and ceiling and stuff like that, which I feel like if this is a supernatural entity, fine. I get that. The dark is fine. When you have things like that, though, there's going to be a trail of, even if you have like certain families who have had their kids die, there, I mean, those, I can name a jillion things that say that things could be like different circumstances, like horrible luck, different things of why that could happen. But the fact that there's like some sort of like root system that goes along the walls and stuff, that is definitely going to be a connection that I feel like if you did research, you'd be able to find.
mm,
I know from people that have been telling me that the book is basically based on Des Malshin's character. I personally would have liked to have seen more of him in this film. I think Marin Ireland did an amazing job. I also was kind of concerned, like I feel like they show the monster way too soon. I mean, I know with the darkness and stuff like that, and if you've seen anything, it's like you see like red eyes, which very much reminded me of Fright Night and Jerry Dandridge, especially at the end. I felt like the reveal of the monster was way sooner than we needed it to be. Um, and I don't know. I'm very it's like I said, I love the beginning of this movie. I think it's the best, honestly, of horror right now this year. But I just felt that the whole mean girl idiocy of the teenagers just really threw me off, like, honestly. And then it keeps going on throughout the film. And by the way, for people who think that these girls who act like this are this character Sadie's friends, they're not. The
Mm-mm.
girls who act like crappy towards her, she has one best friend who is played by Madison Hugh, and that's Bethany. That is her best friend. These
Barely.
girls that treat her horribly are Bethany's friends that she then is associated with. Just because you talk to these people at school, let's be adults about this. You could talk to many people. That doesn't mean they're your friend. These girls are not her friends. So let's make sure that we get that straight, people who are kind of confused with that. But the culprit, which I feel like Natalie in teenagers has become the Karen of that. Her name is Maddie Nichols. Oh my God, it's just a one note character that I feel like, again, I know I'm being a dead, but it's like this is the dead horse I'm beating. It's like stop with this. Like you did, it wasn't needed. I felt like it definitely wasn't needed at all. You didn't need that tension. You didn't need. There's already so much that's going on with the death of the mother and this stuff. I just felt like it like devalued like anything that the movie was trying to say about that. And again, I think it's lazy writing. Honestly, I think it's like 1980s, late 80s teenage. Like, I'm not saying that bullying doesn't happen, but I honestly, like, for a fact, do not think that children are this ignorant nowadays, especially with the death of a parent or anyone that's close to them. Like, this is like not something that would happen, or not. I don't feel like it's a relevant teenage representation.
No.
I do what I something I did think is interesting. I never noticed how much Sophie Thatcher and Anya Taylor Joy have similarities, and I actually wrote down I really would like to see them like in a sister kind of role because I think they're both like very striking women, excellent actresses. Again, it's not because of the performances. I mean, these performances were great. These are top-notch players. Rob Savage, he directed my favorite horror film of 2020, Host. He also directed my least favorite horror film of 2021, Dashcam. So
Oh,
this one
yeah.
is kind of in the middle there. Would I
And he wants
say
to do the
see
Langoliers next.
well, would I see this movie? I say I mean, it's not bad. I mean, I mean, just for the beginning, I think it's bad. I think it's got great sound design. I think it's got creepy effects with that. I think, again, performances are great. Think there's many issues with a lot of the story that I don't think was needed, and I do think that the monster was revealed way too soon in way too many areas and aspects of it and stuff. I think if they would have kept a lot of stuff like just centralized in the house, I think that would have been better instead of like having the boogeyman like everywhere in the dark. And also, I feel like, I mean, come on, I don't know. It's like, look, I've got a chandelier right now that has 4 light bulbs on, and I feel like my little apartment is more lit up than the entire house that was in this film. But I mean, it's not horrible. It's not the worst thing I've seen. I don't think it's been overhyped. And I mean, I would probably watch it again. I don't know if I don't think I'd watch again in the theater. I think I would definitely maybe see it at home. I think that would be probably even more tense, in a captive audience, personalized space sort of thing, but just go in with the things that I'm telling you. And I mean, Chris, let's talk about what you thought of the movie and how it compared to the short story.
This film reminded me a lot of people have been making these comparisons to Smile. You can definitely see it with Smile. It Follows, definitely It Follows as well. What's funny is that the story with David's character, who in the book is Mr. Billings, which, by the way, his wife's name is Rita. Did you catch that?
No.
Rita Hayworth,
Oh,
the Shawshank Redemption.
I mean, that's a
That's a stretch of a callback, but
yeah,
it's
it's a big stretch. It's like, okay, I mean, okay, yeah.
but I digress. In the Dark Tower, by the way, the boogeyman lives in the Dark Tower universe. Same thing with Pennywise the Clown, which makes a lot of sense. Um, so as I was saying, the story of David in this movie is the short story. By the way, the 12 pages of David coming to the psychologist's office, that is the story in the book, and then it ends with him saying you can have an appointment on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Go see my secretary. He goes to see the secretary. The secretary is out. When he comes back into the room is empty. Like the psychiatrist had never been there. The door is open, and the boogeyman is standing there in the closet with the psychiatrist's face on his.
That to me right there, that would have been, I want to see that movie. Because honestly, I thought the interaction between Messina and Desmalchin was great. I think that could have been a lot longer. I mean, like I said, I had a big issue with him having an office in his house with the same entrance as the kids come in. I don't know about
Yeah,
that.
I think
But
David also had to
yeah,
take a smaller part in this movie because I'd heard that he was actually up for Dad's role, and which would have been great because I think he's a great actor. However, he had some ADR work to do on a little film called Ant-Man 3, and
yeah.
he's also in a bigger movie coming out at the end of the summer called The Last Voyage of the Demeter, which is about Count Dracula. If you haven't
Mhm.
seen the trailer, also the Demeter is the ship in the story of Dracula, but we'll get there at the end of the summer because I can't wait to review that movie. Um, so they they did a good job adapting the story and putting a film around it. It's just like I feel like they definitely had too many writers on this because they had to tone stuff down. Now, a lot of people don't realize this movie it went from a $12 million budget to a $30 million budget because it went to theaters and it was supposed to be on Hulu.
What was the additional 18 million?
Probably to pay David and maybe to like beef it up with the characters and special effects possibly, but that $35 million they think is also the number of writers that worked on this thing too. Because again, you had 6 writers take cracks at this script. I mean, this was announced a while back, and I know there are 3 other films called The Boogeyman, which have nothing to do with Stephen King's story. I've only ever seen the first one that was in theaters. I never saw the direct to DVD 2 sequels. Um, but the what was the other thing I put in my notes? Oh, there it is. Oh, they definitely toned it down from an R rating to a PG-13 rating, and apparently on the streaming service it would have gotten that R rating, but when it went in the theaters because of what they toned down, it went to PG-13. Because let's face it, after one particular character is killed in the beginning of this movie, there is nobody else killed until like almost the very end. I mean, you get just to spoil one little thing, the girls don't die, neither does Dad. And I was really expecting someone to get whacked like in the Evil Dead Rise. I mean, Evil Dead Rise shocked me with who they killed off in that movie. And in this film, nobody is killed. And I was just like, wow, what happened to the violence in this movie? What happened to the horror? Because there's a couple creep factors. And honestly, guys, in Hollywood, and boy, the writer's strike will hopefully be over at some point, but I don't think we're anywhere near there yet. I think this is going to be a summer strike because it started at the beginning of the summer and I think it's going to the end of the summer. Let's stop the trope of the monster. We can't come up with anything original for it to look like, so it looks like the creatures from what was the movie called where the girls are in the cave and they fight a bunch of golem creatures after they're kind of on a retreat because one of their friends lost her family in a car accident.
The Descent.
Yes. So they all look like the Descent. They all look like Gollum. They all look like um the the bog witch or something. She's usually like hairless and she's skinny and she's all crooked. It looks like the Crooked Man. That's another character from popular fiction, the Crooked Man. Let's come up with something else. I mean, there was some interesting things done with the Boogeyman, especially with how it kind of, absorbs the life essence or fear, whatever it's doing or whatever. The close up of its mouth with its hands, it was kind of interesting. But overall, the design looks exactly like the Smile creature's real design. And God, if you've ever seen what the Blair Witch actually is supposed to look like, it's not an original design, this hairless ape looking monster with sharp teeth. I mean, there was this movie that came out from overseas, and I've seen people posting about it. um it looks like some type of deer, and its mouth has like human hands, and it's just got this like skull looking face, and it's just this bizarre looking creature in this foreign horror movie, which is killing me trying to remember the name of. But it was such a cool design, especially the fact that again the face looks like a human body attached to it, because it's got hands on its face. It's really weird. A lot of people will have enjoyed that design just because it's not your typical like, well, it looks like us just shaved. uh,
Well,
um
and here's my thing with that. If you're gonna have something that is afraid of the light,
yes.
I almost would, and especially with the boogeyman and stuff like that. I mean, it would have been cool with that. It's like if it's got like, 100 eyes, and that's why it's afraid of the light, and it needs the dark so it can like see. It's like if you could like almost do a POV, like from the boogeyman's point of view, to like see what they're seeing and why the light hurts them. I don't know. It's like this whole thing with the dark. I get it, but when it's like blowing out lights and stuff like that, and I think that's dumb. It's like, just, I mean, it's, darkness falls kind of thing. I mean, I don't know, just
Yeah,
keep
they didn't
going.
they
I
didn't
Sorry.
do up the tagline very much of the whole like, must stay in the light, don't shut off the light. There was that movie, I think we reviewed it once upon a time, um, where a woman is like haunted by the ghost of some friend of hers who has to stay in the darkness in order to be seen. And the trailer was really creepy because you'd flick the light on and off in the trailer, and the thing would come closer and closer to you. Do you remember that movie?
No, but I'm blanking. No, I'm completely blanking on it. It does sound familiar.
Yeah, it came out in 2016, I think.
Oh, wait, it's not Lights Out, is it?
Yes, it is Lights Out.
Oh, Lord. That was one of my see, and that was a film that I absolutely hated. One,
It was
because
based
of
on a
the
short film too.
yeah, and the short film was great, and
Yes.
the short film was amazing,
Did
but
you ever
when you have the, someone who gets shot in their head at the end, and then you could see them breathing, it's like, "Come on, guys,
did you
really?"
did you see the Dollar Baby version of the Boogeyman?
No.
Okay, so there's a great podcast that reviewed all of the Dollar Babies of based on Stephen King's stories, and I haven't had a chance to watch the Dollar Baby of the Boogeyman, but they basically adapt the story, as it is, because they don't have a lot obviously budgets to go too far outside of it, and it's one of the better adaptations to get made, and I think this Dollar Baby was made back in like the early 2000s.
Okay.
And the Night Shift collection, of course, has been around since like the 80s. This is the big collection. This is the early 80s, I'm sorry, because this is the big Stephen King collection that Hollywood likes to pick from. And not every story in here has been done. And some of them have been done terribly. Lawnmower Man. And some of them have been overdone, like Children of the Corn, which just had another movie come out this year, which I didn't see. Um
I didn't either.
yeah. Um, I think this is worth going to see. You could definitely bring your kids to it because rated PG-13. There is that opening scene in the beginning, so if that bothers you, maybe not. Some people I know who are dealing with like the grief and loss of people regarding suicide or murder or some loved one, the psychology office scene may or may not be for you, but it doesn't hit that hard that I think it should trigger anybody. I don't think any animals died in this movie, so there's that too.
I don't think so.
But
If there
it
is a
definitely
dog,
had
I mean,
the
it's not memorable, so there's that.
it
Sorry,
definitely
dog.
had the feelings of like it follows and Smile tremendously because that whole like it just kind of keeps coming after, no matter what feeling. It's not reasonable, it's you can't escape it from just not going to sleep sort of thing. And the boogeyman has been around for centuries, as far as I could look back or whatever. The boogeyman has been told in folklore. I don't know when the term was coined and phrased, but the boogeyman itself, the thing, kids looking under their bed in their closet, I did it. I mean, every time I've heard that they're going to do something with the boogeyman, I always think of like the Ghostbuster cartoon, which was in behind me, as well as like Mr. Boogedy, which was a Disney cartoon, sorry, a Disney movie, a Disney Sunday night kind of short Halloween feature, which you can find on Disney Plus. Um, but I just don't think anyone has ever captured the way the story of the boogeyman should be told. But this is okay, and we're seeing it's trekking along behind Spider-Man, far behind Spider-Man, but it will make back its budget. So, and continue proving this director it can do something. And who knows, maybe they'll give him the Langoliers to be like, yeah, let's try this again. But
It is interesting that you say though that it had an $18 million budget when it was going into Hulu, but then when it went to theaters, it jumped up to 30. Because it's like I know you said with the writers, but it's like I mean, per the writer strike, it's not like they should have been making that much bank.
no,
I
but
mean,
but
I
it could
would
also be like the bot. It could all, don't forget, it's also probably like the $5 or $7 million it took to advertise this, because I saw this trailer a lot.
yeah. I mean, that is true. I don't know. Now I'm thinking maybe that it would have had a better. I mean, I, I wish I would have seen the R-rated version because it's like if the beginning was an example of what the R-rated version could have been, that would have could have possibly been then my favorite horror film of the year. I mean, like I said, that's a strong, strong beginning. But yeah,
I thought it
uh
was rated R until I found out before doing this review it was rated PG-13, just based on that first death,
yeah.
because something like that is so like taboo to have happen. I mean, again, Evil Dead Rise had stuff like that, but not that young.
Yeah, and it is the fact that with the boogeyman, it's not like he's smothering these kids in their sleep. This isn't something that it's like oh he's taking their breath or all that stuff. I mean, this is blood and sinew and it is very violent. We do not see it, but you know that it is there.
Mm,
And from this one, yeah, I don't know. Did the girls get scratches or I mean, I know they got thrown around and stuff, but did they have like any like claw marks and stuff on them from the beast either?
mm, not that I can think of. I mean,
Yeah. I know
the dad
dad,
had, I think, the worst injury with his leg getting snapped, which was pretty like, oh, but
yeah.
that's just my
I mean,
reaction to having seen, just to see that happen on screen. Ow,
yeah.
ow.
But, but again, yeah, see that's the thing. It's like you start that film with a like infant who definitely there is blood that we see, so there's something that it's like I mean that's a strong hard death, like a vicious death, and then it just doesn't happen through the rest of the movie. So I don't know, I really wish I would love to see what the rated R version would have been like because I feel like they really held back a lot of what this was, for a horror film. I don't know.
I think the boogeyman also became too much of our best friend when Monsters Inc. turned the boogeyman into a cuddly, cutesy kids cartoon by Pixar. Because literally, Monsters Inc. what they do is becoming the boogeyman, living in kids' closets and terrifying them.
Oh yeah, but that's the thing. I mean, it's like more the fear, and this is. I don't feel like this. The boogeyman didn't feed off the fear. It was the sadness that drew them, or maybe yeah, he fed off the sadness, and then after that, he just started killing people just to feed more off that, which again is kind of weird. So then, what does that say? That it's like, so you know what? If somebody dies, everybody, if you just get over it immediately, you don't have to worry about the boogeyman because then he's like, oh, you guys are completely fine with your feelings. Okay. All right. Well, I'm gonna go. See you later. Bye. Because that's
Uh,
what, yeah. I don't
well,
know. I have a lot of issues with this film. I thought it just could have been so much better, and not because of the actors, and not because actually I thought the direction was actually pretty great too. I didn't think that, but then you also have the fact that the boogeyman can bleed, or something can come out of it. So if that's a fact, then I
Yeah,
mean,
that baffled me when I heard someone else review the film and they said it makes no, yes, I understand it's they said, first let me say this, I understand it's fiction, but it
yeah,
still makes no sense this thing is supernatural, can like jump through its supernatural nightcrawler style portals and be the way it is, but somehow still bleeds.
yeah,
And I'm like, they said, don't forget, Freddy Krueger can't bleed until he comes into the real world. He's made corporeal. He's made real. And I'm like, so there's that. And I'm like, yes, but we're still stretching the disbelief about Freddy Krueger. So,
yeah.
but hey, check out the rest of the check out the film if you wish to. We have posters to give away for the Boogeyman. I have the theatrical poster, kind of like the one Katie has. These are the giant double-sided theatrical posters. They just came in this week with my Little Mermaid posters, which was very funny. The studio sent me. But if you want a Boogeyman poster and you live in the Worcester, Framingham, Massachusetts area, feel free to reach me at radiohorror@gmail.com and I will give you one for free. If you want to have it shipped to you, you have to pay for shipping and handling. Sorry. Check out the rest of the reviews here on the Radio Horror YouTube channel. We'll be back probably for Insidious, but we're also going to do a film that Katie's been wanting to do for a while called Eden Lake, which I finally had a chance to see. So stay tuned for that. It's the 15th anniversary of this movie that I was just like, good God, people act terrible in this thing. The acting's not bad, just people act terrible. Kind of reminds
Yeah.
me of Slumdogs and The New Kids, if you know what The New Kids is by Sean Cunningham. Yeah, that's what this film reminds me of. It reminds me of Slumdogs, either the remake or the original, and uh The New Kids. So stay tuned for our review of that, as well as Insidious coming up. The last
Yes,
chapter of the Insidious films.
Eden Lake was an early birth control film for me because yay kids,
Oh,
yay.
Eden Lake was a early birth control film. Okay.
Yeah.
I was like, wait, what? We'll be back. Follow us on our individual Facebook pages, Radio of Horror and The Blonde in Front. And like I said, we'll be back with Eden Lake and Insidious in the coming weeks.